Evening, ladies and gentlemen, those of you tuning in from far and wide. We're back in the weather center talking tropics tonight. Let me pop out my chat to make sure I see everybody in the comment section. I see good old Scrooge McDuck, Mick and Marley, good to see you. Same thing with Braden's Weather Channel, Nomad Avenue 6, a few others I do believe joining us as well. Time Traveler Karen, Devil Charger, good to see you in the chat as well, but I feel like I haven't seen you in a little bit, but then again, I've also been kind of AWOL on this channel, and once again, I noticed we've dropped a lot of subscribers, and you know what? That's to be expected. And I'll also say, you know what, for those of you who may be brand new to the channel, if you want to look at this as he's just gonna clickbait, he's gonna lie, he's gonna do this and that for the clicks, clearly not, because since I've been so busy with the weather career on the other side of the spectrum with News 6, I haven't been cultivating and grooming this channel as much as I used to, and I wouldn't be surprised if the algorithm kind of bums us out this evening and we don't get a lot of folks to tune in, but that's okay. We're going to talk tropics. We're going to talk the grand finale, in my opinion, of what the 2024 hurricane season looks like. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in this evening. I am News 6 meteorologist David Nazario, back in the Weather Center tonight. We're going to talk tropics. We're going to see what's going on out there presently, and then we're also going to discuss where it is that I think we're going to be looking for our last bout of potential, we won't say intense, but one last pop-off of tropical activity right around Halloween time is what it looks like. We just might have a spooky tropical system to monitor as we get closer to not only October 31st, but as well as into the first week or two of November. I posted about this on my TikTok and my Instagram earlier today. We could see a very similar setup and rhythm with which we saw back in the beginning of this month. In the last couple days of September, we saw Helene pummel the northern portions of Florida at the back end of September into early October, and then we're all very familiar with Kirk, with Joyce, with Leslie, and then, of course, good old Milton. And I don't say good old, and obviously the sense, but just the name. Good old Milton, the Michael persona that was retired back in 2018. Currently, however, looking at the infrared satellite, we have our tiny hurricane here. This is Oscar that has boogalooed off towards the west-southwest and almost due southwest into a landfall with the extreme eastern tip of Cuba. I want to say as a Category 2 hurricane, I mean, no disrespect when I say this, but National Hurricane Center, more or less, I believe, fell asleep at the wheel with this system. It seemed like we had a system go from a 20-30% chance of development to a tropical storm to immediately a hurricane. And I know to a lot of folks that might look alarming, as if, oh gosh, we've never seen this before, rapid intensification. I personally feel like the lack of observation, the lack of data from our invest area, we probably missed the initial genesis of this feature. And I want to go ahead and pull up the Tropical Tidbits infrared satellite for Oscar so we can go way back in time and look at whenabouts we probably saw actual TCG, that infamous acronym, Tropical Cyclogenesis, of a depression, a storm, and then eventually a hurricane. I think we managed to capture the last second of the transition between storm to hurricane, and we missed the low-level circulation. Now I will admit, we probably did get some pretty decent rapid intensification from this system. If you look at the satellite image, it went from a very broad, low, mid-level spin to a very compact and fast-paced spinning bubble of tropical madness. Very similar to Milton. This is, in fact, smaller than Milton. I do believe that when they finally went in and classified this as a hurricane, somebody out there fact-checked me on it, but I do believe I saw a post that an observation was taken only a 3 nautical mile wide center eye. That is a tiny little blip of an eye. Still did not beat Wilma's record. I believe that Wilma is still the heavyweight champ of tropical Atlantic hurricane season from 2005, and that still has the smallest eye to date as a Category 5, a record-setting 882 millibar Category 5, positioned to the southwest of Jamaica and the immediate south of the Cayman Islands. So Was it 5? I saw 3 all over X, but then again on X, I really don't know what to trust anymore. I think I saw somebody, either that or maybe it was 5 and Wilma was 3. I can't recall. It's been a kerfluffle of all sorts of information with this feature as well as Nadine. And the best part about this is, for those of you who heard all the rigmarole about Nadine, didn't come to Florida. Didn't come to Florida. We're still sitting pretty. We're still recovering from Milton, from Helene, and thankfully we've had no bad weather to worry about. Oh, so it was 3 nautical. Okay, well, I wasn't converting. I read 3 nautical miles. But, yeah, Nadine did not come to Florida. Thank goodness. Now, are we completely out of the woods for the hurricane season? No, that's for certain. Am I predicting a storm's going to come for Florida? No, but whenever something gets going, whether it be in the Caribbean or the Gulf of Mexico, we automatically know somebody is going to get hit. I'm seeing a lot of people sharing the GFS, and the GFS is doing precisely what we saw last hurricane season with the 20,000 iterations of Vince that was supposed to form up down here and go this way. Please don't buy into that. Is it a possible solution? Yeah. But is it most likely going to happen? No. No other model is showing that. If anything, what tends to happen out here in the Caribbean into especially November is we'll get something in this general source region, and just like what we have Oscar doing, it dips to the south and it's going to ricochet back towards the northwest or the northeast. That could potentially be what happens with a system if it does decide to organize to the south of Jamaica, the south of the Cayman Islands. It'll go up towards the northeast. I see a lot of the people sharing the 18Z GFS. I don't know why all of a sudden we're putting so much stock in the 18Z GFS and they're talking about it going the wrong way. That's not going to happen. It just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Will we continue to watch it? Absolutely. So here is a look at Hurricane Oscar. And the reason I say it was likely a Category 2 with the lack of recon data is look at that eye right there. Right there. Quality little eye feature right here with some really good eye wall convection, tiny pinhole eye, very symmetrical, cirrus dense overcast, symmetrical core of organized thunderstorms nearest to the center of circulation. I'm not going to pull the radar up, but I know I saw other images being shared around social media as well of the actual eye wall and the eye itself getting ready to clear out. But there's the eye of Hurricane Oscar as it prepared to make landfall a few hours ago. It went and crashed ashore, almost headed due south. Almost heading due south and kind of stalling out to an extent before it begins to climb back up towards the west-northwest, eventually the north, and then back to the northeast. But I'm going to try to do this without completely bogging down my computer and losing you guys in the live stream, but let's go to 400 panels and let's go way back in time. See, even this isn't really going to capture it really well. Let's try not to break tropical tidbits. Let's go to 600 images back in time. Lord help this computer. There we go. So even back then, if you look at the start of this satellite, right there, this looks like a tropical cyclone. Period. And look at the timestamp here. This is 0Z on the 19th. So this is still the night before. This is still, I believe, today is Sunday. So yesterday was Saturday. This is October 18th. So this is Friday night before we had anything classified. This was when the invest was marked way low per the National Hurricane Center. You look at that convection right there, and this system is definitely bubbling up. Because again, if you look at the timestamp, this is 8:47 p.m. on October 18th. So this would be Friday night when we had nothing there on National Hurricane Center's homepage. And you could already see this looks like a tropical storm. And then there, this is when we finally caught up. This is 10:37Z, October 19th. So this is very early Saturday morning. You go a little further in time to about 12Z. This is 8 a.m. Saturday morning. This looks like a tropical storm. So we've likely had a tropical depression, or at least the very minimum, a PTC out there for an extended period of time, and National Hurricane Center didn't capture it. I'm not too sure what happened. A lot of us are a little perplexed as to what happened, if they were model watching, if they figured there was really no reason to send reconnaissance data into it, if ASCAT did not really support it. I don't know. I can't speak on their behalf, but it was there. It was definitely there. So... but that's neither here nor there. Here is a look at National Hurricane Center's homepage. This is our 7-day graphical tropical weather outlook, and we're going to keep an eye on this area to the south of Oscar. Oscar is still there. It has made landfall. You can see we are still at a 75-mile-an-hour hurricane, Category 1 hurricane, moving west-southwest at 6 miles an hour. The central pressure is up about 4 millibars since the last outlook that I had looked at. I can't remember if it was the 2 or the 5 o'clock. I believe it was the 2 o'clock outlook. So in a matter of 6 hours, we've only filled about 4 millibars. Again, I really do think this probably achieved Category 2 status before making landfall, just based on satellite imagery, radar, and microwave imagery of looking at such a small pinhole core. Just like we saw with Milton, these systems that are tiny, compact, buzzsaw in nature, they tend to spin up very, very quickly. You can see a Cat 1 go to a Cat 5 Milton within the span of 12 hours. So it would not be surprising if we go back in a postseason analysis and have this thing stronger than what was anticipated and what was observed per National Hurricane Center. But that's neither here nor there. Here is the track for, I was going to say Milton, for Oscar. You can see it is going to dawdle around a little bit over eastern Cuba before moving back up through the Turks and Caicos, the southeast Bahamas, and eventually becoming a possible detriment to Bermuda as a post-tropical cyclone. It's going to be absorbed by the frontal boundary that's been marinating to our south here in Florida. As it picks up jet support, picks up a bit more of that dry air, temperature discontinuity, it's going to ricochet up towards the northeast into Bermuda, possibly bringing some elevated winds and heavy rainfall for them as a post-tropical, or a remnant low, I should say, with jet support. But with that being said, bam, let's come on over to what it is that we are going to be discussing in this live stream. So this is going to be our Global Tropics Hazards Outlook. We're very familiar with this. This is not strange territory for us. And if you notice, from October 23rd through the 29th, Climate Prediction Center has that above 20% chance for something over Cuba, Hispaniola, the Bahamas, Turks and Caicos, Jamaica, moving off in this direction. That would be Oscar. Now, after that, we have Patty that we have to look out for, Peppermint Patty down there that could possibly take shape closer to October 30th through November 5th. If you look, they still have us bullseyed for that above 20% chance for potential tropical activity. So this is what we'll need to watch out for down here for our friends down there in Central America who are already pummeled by Nadine, who are also experiencing what Oscar has for us down in the Turks and Caicos, Eastern Cuba, Jamaica, and the Cayman Islands. Will definitely have to watch what happens down there over the next 2 to 3 weeks, because we have a fairly amped up, enhanced MJO that's going to be wandering through very soon. Here's a look at the phase diagram for the MJO as we go over the next 3 weeks. And you can see that a lot of the GFS ensembles, and I'll show you the Euro after this as well, are coming into agreement that we are going to be in a fairly enhanced phase of the MJO as it propagates into the 8, 1, and 2 phases, which typically favors tropical activity in the Atlantic. So again, I do think the Caribbean is going to become a bit more of a hotspot. We still do have easterly waves out there propagating west-northwest through the Atlantic basin. They just haven't been able to cook because of how suppressed we've been out there while this system, or while the MJO sits over the maritime continents. You can see right here we are still in phase 5, very tail end of potential stirring of the pot for the Atlantic. But then as we move through the Western Pacific and come back to phase 1, literally square one, into 8, 1, and 2 is when we'll likely start to see a mixing of convective activity, more moisture, more lift out there for these waves and these other pieces of vorticity or spin in the environment to get going. Here's a look at the European model. This is our 200 millibar vertical velocity anomaly. I'll show you the regular ones that we're used to with the oranges and the browns and the teal colors, but this is directly from CPC, and I want you to look at just how focused of an MJO we have coming through as we go over towards spooky, the spookiest part of October, the spookiest part of the year, I would say, because not only is it Halloween, and you never know if Michael Myers is in your closet or in your garage or in your backyard, in your laundry linens, whatever, but we also could have a spooky tropical cyclone or two out there in the Caribbean to kind of stir up some trouble, stir up some problematic pieces down there for our friends, and then maybe head into the Gulf of Mexico. Right now, does it look like it will make its way more towards the northwest? Not too much, because it's going to be an excruciatingly painful game of timing, tropical timing, the game of chess, as I've said many times, whether it be here or on Just Weather. It's always a game of timing. We have much stronger frontal systems. We have stronger jet dips. We have stronger troughs. We have stronger high pressure systems over the North America continent. And as a result, it's going to be a toss-up. We're so far out. I'm not going to go pinpointing bullseyes, pinpointing targets or pinpointing where a system could make landfall. We need to see if the MJO is actually going to clear the environment out and produce any additional tropical cyclone activity. Because as we saw through the months of August and September, it doesn't matter what your MJO is doing. It doesn't matter how much moisture you have out there. There is still a potential fail mode to where nothing happens at all. And, it's spooky season, so that could definitely be the case. But does this seem like confidence is going up? Heck yes, and that's why we're here talking. Here's our latest look at the GEFS velocity anomalies. This just came out yesterday. It populated today. It's valid as of 0Z on October 19th. But the reason I say it comes out today is a lot of these big-time long-range charts, they take about 24 hours to get into the computer system to where we can see them. And so you can see, looking particularly on the right-hand side of the chart for the Atlantic and the Caribbean, starting at about the 25th, we'll say the 25th to about the 26th of October is when we really see a decent phasing alignment for activity in the Caribbean, in the western portions of the main development region of the Atlantic, but I don't really think we're going to see any more tropical waves. I really do think if anything happens, it will be in the Caribbean. This is very heavily corroborated by the European model that just released. In fact, the Euro is a little bit more aggressive with that MJO propagation. You could see this here, given that this is a time phase chart. If you follow the chart down, that's going forward in time, starting at the 21st, so now real time, all the way to the 1st of December. And if you look, this is going to be our MJO. It's a lot thicker, it's a lot beefier, and you can track it through time and horizontally on the chart, because if you look at the pattern down here, it goes east to west, or I should say west to east longitude. So, what happened? What's going on? I see somebody mentioning in the chat to change the channel, which I do agree. Oh, never mind. I'm sorry. Let me get back on track. What's very interesting here as well is the Euro shows another run at MJO/Kelvin wave activity as we go through the back end of November. So with as backloaded of a hurricane season that we've had, we can't rule out the possibility of a weak, sloppy system even coming together closer to Thanksgiving, Black Friday. But we're definitely not going to go that far in time. That's just a little fun tidbit. This is the area that I'm watching there because that is a very, very aggressive amount of rising motion. Now, again, give and take with Mother Nature, with the amount of vertical velocity that we have focused over this area, that bit of a standing wave effect brought on by the Madden Julian Oscillation, this could actually hamper any additional activity, because remember, the faster you're lifting up in the atmosphere, the more shear, the more unstable it gets. So you could cook off some strong storms, but will it be favorable for a organized barotropic tropical cyclone? That remains to be seen. We've seen this look before to where things have really gotten amped up and then nothing happens. So we shall see. This is what I've been particularly watching day by day. There go the spaghetti plots for Oscar, up and away, possibly being an issue for Bermuda as a remnant extratropical low. But then every day down there in the Caribbean, notice how much more agreement we have down there. It's not concise agreement. If you look, they kind of go all over the place, which is why I'm not going to try to nail down a landfall. Let's try to get confidence that there will be a storm on the board before we start pointing arrows in every single direction that there is. There were a lot of folks after Milton who still had a bunch of arrows pointed at Florida and said, it's coming, and nothing happened. So, I'm not going to go drawing arrows all over the place and trying to pinpoint this is a Cuba storm, this is coming to Jamaica, this is going to go this way or that way. No, right now it just does look like we're going to have more activity as we get into late October and early November, and that's going to be a problem regardless because of the fact that it'll be forming in a landlocked area of the MDR, the Caribbean. So, all in all, these are some pretty impressive plots here. And what's very bizarre is a lot of them go in so many different directions. You can see some that go like this, some that go up like this. There's a few that come down through here. None of them go off in the backwards direction like the GFS, which is why I'm ruling that ensemble or that deterministic solution out. It looks like whatever forms up has the greatest opportunity at doing this, I would think, just moving off towards the northeast, or as some have already mentioned in the chat, it could possibly try to move west and then encounter a frontal system, move back up towards the southeast. But again, that's entirely speculation. Don't take that as gospel. Don't take that as we will see another hurricane or anything like that. That's neither here nor there. We're going to wait and see what happens. The GFS has plenty of ensemble agreement down there as well, showing a bit more of a further east solution with a source region to the south of the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, and then moving up towards the east-northeast out into the central Atlantic. I still really do not think that's what's going to happen. I think this will start to adjust and become a bit more focused in the west and south central Caribbean, just like we've seen in past storms, just like we recently saw with Helene, with Nadine. This has been a fiery spot for much of the tropical Atlantic 2024 season. If you come over to the Canadian ensembles, the Canadian ensemble does show pretty much the same as the European model. It shows a source region down over the south and central and western Caribbean. It starts to bubble up just in time for Halloween night. This is 6 Zulu on 1 November, which means this is very late in the evening. This is while we're all trick-or-treating or partying, or I'm running around as Michael Myers having fun. You know, whatever you guys want to get into on Halloween, if you even celebrate Halloween. You may be doing something different, you know. Whatever you guys enjoy with your friends and family, I'm going to definitely be donning the mask again because this is one of my favorite times of the year. But the Canadian ensembles definitely do anticipate something cooking off down here in the Caribbean with some fairly sporty-looking members as well. And notice that the Canadian kind of ebbs and flows a bit more with the Euro, taking it off in this general direction, either this way or this way, which does seem to be the more realistic outcome. I really just can't see a system forming and going against every single piece of thermodynamic characterism out there, as well as just the general flow of the trade wind component across the Atlantic, across the Caribbean. It's not going to, I can't. I really can't see that. So we're going to wait and see. We're going to have to wait it out and just kind of take it day by day, especially since we still have about a week before things really do start to look more confident. This is our latest run of the Euro long-range 45-day ensembles, and you could see without a shadow of a doubt the Euro thinks that is going to be our hotspot, generally tracking it off either in this direction or in this direction, which lines up with the historical data. You know, so we're going to continue to watch. I think that there has been a couple of actual computer models as well already showing something. I'm not going to show the GFS because the GFS is being silly. I don't know what it's doing down there, why it consistently always shows a backwards hurricane. It did the same thing last year, and there were a lot of folks who bid on it. They said, yep, wrong way hurricane, here it comes, and then again, nothing happened. We had so many iterations of Vince. That's the running inside joke on this channel now a year later, and we're probably going to have more Vince setups as we go through the rest of October and into November until we can weed out the real thing. This is a look at our 12Z European model, and you can see that the Euro is starting to show something bubbling up, something brewing, a consolidation of energy down there in the Caribbean. You could see it here on the vorticity at 850, see it at 700. There it is right there. Now, I'm not going to call this a gyre. Not going to call this a gyre because this is not a gyre. This doesn't make sense. Atmospherically speaking, as a gyre, that's not a gyre. If you look at the 200 millibar winds, you just have a giant area of anticyclonic flow that can borrow some extra energy from the atmosphere. You're also likely still seeing very weak waves coming across the Atlantic, moving right into that favorable source region. If we go to 700 millibars, yeah, you can still track little individual pieces of tropical waves. There's one there, one there, one there, and that looks to be about it. And I bet you 10 to 1 what the Euro is fixating on is point number 3. It gets into, yep, that's exactly what it is. So that one right there that I have highlighted here, if you track it through time and you follow the loop, the Euro thinks it's going to make its way through the Windward Islands, maybe through the Guianas, parts of Venezuela, and end up down here in the Southern Caribbean, right underneath a giant ridge, which would suggest low wind shear, lots of moisture, lots of instability to tap into. This is right in time for the phasing with the MJO, so it'll be in a pocket with very favorable conditions. If you look at the wind shear, boom, there's nothing down there. It's in that little nook to where it could get going if it wants to. And it looks like the Euro tries to develop something, which is probably why the European ensembles are getting a little more excited down in that neck of the woods. If I get us up close and personal once again and go to the CMC is showing the same thing. The Canadian model has something brewing up down there, and this would most definitely track off. Just looking at this early solution, this would definitely track off in this direction, which is not something that Florida needs to see. But again, look at the date. This is October 30th. We have 10 days to get ahead of this. We're going to have, what's the math on that? We're going to have 40 different model runs between then and now. We're going to have 40 different model solutions that we can decipher, right? Is my math correct? We have 4 model runs per day, 0, 6. Well, in this case, we'll only have 20 because the Canadian model only comes out twice. So you do the math, 2 times for 10 days, that's 20 model runs. This is going to change. But regardless, this is the type of pattern that you don't like to see this time of year because you have something down here is trying to balloon up. You have a big old high pressure down there and a front coming down. It's only going to have one way to go, this way or this way, which is why I really just do not think that we're going to have a system going backwards. Already, if it does that, it's going to be going against every single piece of prevailing flow down there. If you look at the 850 winds, they're coming out of the east. If you look at the actual gradient at 700 millibars, we have a giant ridge driving winds out of the east like so. Then you have these opposing winds coming off of the North American continent with the introduction of our next front. This is your neutral point right there. You can see it in your winds. So that system's going to want to track in that general direction. So we'll have to wait and see. We'll need to see if we actually get a focusing of our thunderstorms, a focusing of convection, and whether or not we actually have the energy to support a system. But it's definitely already starting to show itself on our mid-range models. Let me see if the icon had anything on it. Yeah, see, so the icon is already starting to show a blossoming of moisture down there. So that's going to be the area to watch over the next 10 to 20 days, give or take. And that's all I got tonight, folks. I'll open up the forum to questions. Trying to keep these things a little bit shorter since I do so much talking now throughout the week, and I'm probably going to be live again tomorrow on News 6, and we're going to be talking about this as we go forward in time. Jonathan and I have already been blasting thoughts back and forth. We're already thinking that it's not over yet. And my gut has served me very right this hurricane season, very right. And so I do believe that my gut is going to be on the money with this again, and we're going to see one last bout of tropical activity. Nomad Avenue 6 and Mick and Marley as well. Yes, it's a pleasure to be live with everybody tonight. Honestly, it's been paining me in the background not being able to talk to you all. But just understand, and I've mentioned it before, that anytime you see me absent on here, it doesn't mean that I'm absent altogether. It just means I'm talking somewhere else, whether it be on television or over on a different YouTube channel, News 6, just whether you name it. You can always find me, though. You can always find me. It's not like I'm just gone because of the other career. Because of the new career. So definitely don't look at it that way. How are you? Do you have power finally? Did you have any more damage? April, no, everything is all good. We lost power for about maybe 20 hours max, which is a new record for Duke Energy out here in Haines City. Fiona Diamond, absolutely, yes. Whenever I'm going to go live on News 6, I don't like to spam the channel, but if you guys would like it, I can most definitely drop information on like a community post or even just share a random little vertical short video here on the channel. Be like, hey guys, so I'm not going to be on the Weather Center, but I'm going to be over on News 6. Link is here, yada yada. Just so, yeah, it doesn't feel like I'm leaving you all hanging, because I love this community. Without this community, we wouldn't be where we are today. So I still attribute everything that I'm doing now off this channel to every one of you out there who have confided and trusted in me and spread the word about this channel, albeit however small it is. So if you wouldn't mind clicking the share, clicking the like button. If you want to subscribe, feel free to do so. Very infrequent with the content on here. I do apologize for that. I do notice when I was booting up the chat earlier, you all were mentioning whether or not I was going to continue to update you all as we went through the rest of fall, winter, and spring. Absolutely. Weather is year-round. This channel has always been year-round. Just again, I want to emphasize it may not be 4, 5, 6 pieces of content every 7 days. It'll more like 1, 2 live discussions depending on what Mother Nature is doing out there. But I'm also supplementing that with all the work that I'm doing with News 6. So I will make sure to start sharing the YouTube links here on my channel to get you over to where you can find me and the rest of our Pinpoint Weather team doing our discussions over there, so that way it doesn't seem like I'm just gone. Because I don't want to communicate that either. Just because I'm working at a news network now and I'm doing the actual meteorologist gig does not mean I'm going to forget everybody and forget where I came from. That is the last thing I ever want to do. That is the last thing I would ever do through my lifetime. So you can always find me. Always. Yeah, when I say News 6, we actually have a News 6 WKMG YouTube channel. I can link that as well, but most of the time it'll be just weather. It's only when we have the serious weather going on to where we're streaming everywhere. News 6, News 6 app, News 6 Plus, just weather, everything, to where we like kind of spiderweb out. LQD think yes. In summary, we're watching the Caribbean. The Caribbean is not done, and we have a fairly favorable MJO coming through. One of the strongest, I would argue, this hurricane season, truthfully. Hey, Weather Nazario, is wind shear the westerlies over the Gulf of Mexico favorable to support a hurricane? Is there a correlation if La Nina October, November support lower wind shear over the Gulf? So there have been indications that our wind shear is going to try to relax over the Gulf of Mexico. However, since we are so late into the season, if you look at this is what we're going to start to see. So the Caribbean will still stay, a fairly favorable spot through the rest of October and the first portions of November. However, whenever we have a big old trough like that coming down, you're going to see a huge increase in your wind shear and your dry air over the Gulf of Mexico. If I switch over to our actual moisture, if you look, boom, tons of dry air coming off of Texas, Louisiana, and Mexico. And that's exactly what we have overhead right now, which is what's been keeping our rain chances fairly slim to none out here in Central Florida and the rest of the Deep South and the Southeast U.S. That's going to be a recurring theme as we get deeper into fall and start to approach winter. So it is favorable, yes, but it is not going to be indefinitely favorable like it is per se August, September, and early October. If you look, though, we are definitely cooking. We are definitely into our La Nina now. Negative 1.059, so negative 1.06 in our Nino 3-4 index, which definitely puts us into a moderate strength La Nina, or just a generalized La Nina, period. If you look at the actual anomalies here on the chart, I don't really like the CDAS, but what we're looking at here is just going to be our ENSO regions out there in the equatorial Pacific, and that's definitely looking a lot more La Nina-ish than we have pretty much throughout the season. Because I know it was a bit of a delayed to failure to launch during the first couple of months, May, June, July, August, and so on. Clara, good to see you. Jeremiah, yes, definitely. The tornado outbreak with Milton was on another planet. You don't typically see that in Florida, but the weird mechanisms that were helping to weaken the center of Milton unfortunately played against us and helped to spawn in very Great Plains, Midwest-style tornadic activity. I don't think so. Rodney Shelby, I will openly admit, as a guilty pleasure, I've started to look ahead to the next hurricane season. It's just naturally in my blood, in my being. We did the same thing last year, even though I know this has been a night and day difference. And if you look, some of our models are thinking we're actually going to retreat back to a neutral pattern. See that? So we might see much of the same for next hurricane season. A quality season with pretty decent amount of impacts. This is the CFS as of today, and if you look at the CANSIPS as well, the CANSIPS, boom, is also thinking a return of the anomalies out across the Atlantic and a neutral pattern for the peak of the hurricane season, maybe even trying to get back into a week, what is it called? Not Mordecai, sort of Soduk, something, I forget the terminology, but it could almost be I don't want to butcher the naming convention for it, but anyways, our models are definitely thinking a neutral kind of setup for next hurricane season. The NMME is thinking neutral pattern as well. We're going to lose the La Nina as we go through winter, and then the anomalies are going to start to cool off as we get into April, May, June, July, August, and so on and so forth. So we might just get a Modukai Nino. There we go. Thank you. I don't know why I was thinking Sudoku. I'm just kidding. No, that's not what I was thinking, but it kind of sounds like it. That'd be a great idea, April. I've actually been wanting to toy around with doing visits and out in the field work with News 6. I think that'd be such an outstanding opportunity, and I would definitely love to meet and greet with a lot of you all, even if it's just a small, intimate group. I wouldn't imagine a bunch of people are going to come out, but I think that'd be a great time. LQD, yeah, I definitely understand that. We are not out of the woods entirely yet. So, we're almost done, though. That's the one positive piece that we can rip from this. We're almost done. We're right on the threshold. We have about 30 days, give or take, before we can really just close out this hurricane season and stop all the tropical shenanigans. Not a main target, no, Braden. Like I said, I am not going to start to try to forecast main targets for whatever happens down there in the Caribbean. Florida does need to watch. The eastern Gulf of Mexico states do need to pay attention, as do all of our friends down there in the Caribbean, but that's just the nature of the beast. Whenever there is something down there in the Caribbean, for sure, watch it. Watch it like a hawk, because it's going to hit somebody, that's for sure. Mike, good to see you in the chat. 2024 is more like 2004. 2025 might be like 05. If things do really come in cycles, then yes, next year could technically, for the sake of, the mythos and the spooky ghost stories, yes, we more or less have realized 2004 all over again this hurricane season. Florida has seen 3 hurricane landfalls. I will count that as 2004. Because in 04, we had Tropical Storm Bonnie, then we had Charlie Francis Jean. Ivan technically was an Alabama storm, but you could call it a Pensacola storm. So I would contest that Debbie counts for Tropical Storm +1. So we had 3 hurricane landfalls in the state of Florida this year, 2 of which went up right into the Big Bend, 1 down in western Florida, a very historic landfall too at that, just to the immediate south of Tampa. And I know Tampa had been hammered by that system. So the good old 100-year, whatever the tribal thingamajiggy that they always say down in West Florida, most definitely did not hold true this year. And I'm not going to split hairs and say, well, the eye didn't. So technically it's like, no, because I saw all the damage. I saw all the power outages. I saw all the reports, all the flooding. So regardless. So yeah, guys, that's all she wrote. Naz, can anything form in the MDR for the rest of the season? I really don't think so. Mr. Man JJ, good to see you, by the way. Isaac Logan, good to see you as well. Naz, is there still a high chance high pressure keeps the Gulf protected the rest of October and November? Yes. Griffin, if you're talking from my locations, Mike, again, thanks for the $5 donation as well. It's been a pleasure throughout this hurricane season. We've done a lot of chatting offline. It's been fantastic building that rapport, that friendship with you and yours out there in Louisiana. Not going anywhere. I can't wait to continue our conversations despite how busy our lives can get, especially as we get into the holiday season. But yes, to answer your question, 9 times out of 10, we're probably going to be good to go in Texas, Louisiana, and maybe Mississippi. Again, it's a very, very, very careful game of timing here. We have high pressure still out there over the Atlantic, but then we also have the repetitive dipping of the jet, dipping of the troughs, and the frontal systems coming through to help keep things pushed and suppressed eastward. Milton, we saw it. We actually did just see it now with Oscar, and we did see it technically with Nadine. That high pressure just situated and sandwiched over to the north, forced that thing down into Central America and into the East Pac, so that force field is still in play. But thank you, everybody, for tuning in this lovely Sunday evening. I hope you had a fantastic weekend and you have a great start to the week ahead. We will see you again very soon. Tomorrow night, I will probably be home busy with other things, but Jonathan will be live at 8 p.m. over at Just Weather. I might see if I'm available to maybe remote in for like a 10, 15-minute spiel, but I also don't want to steal his thunder, even though we're teammates at this point, and I know he'd have no problem, but still, I always feel bad. So definitely tune in for that. He'll have his Tropics Watch tomorrow night, and we'll talk a little bit more about what could possibly be ahead in the Caribbean and for the rest of the season. I wholeheartedly think this is, as the name implies and the thumbnail implies, this is going to be the finale for 2024, and then we'll be good to go. We'll be good to go. Lord willing, there's no more random surprises, especially since we saw on the vorticity or the velocity charts that there could be a sneaky anomaly as you get towards the Thanksgiving time frame. But we're not going to talk about that. That's still way, way out ahead. Robbie Lynn, you're very welcome. Twilight Firefly, excellent to see you in the chat. It was good to see you tonight, David. Hoping everyone has a wonderful night and great start to the week. Amen, I say to that. You as well up there, Twilight Firefly. Have a fantastic start to your week. April Claremont, great to see you in the chat. Everybody who keeps coming in on a repetitive basis, even though I have not been as repetitive on this channel, it's always fantastic to see everybody. You're like an extension of my neighborhood, and it's always great to meet and greet and talk with you all, for sure. Clara, you're very welcome. Monique, good to have you watching from the Bahamas. I hope you all is well, despite Oscar trying to move up into your area. Clip King, hello there. Christina Estrada, oh, I missed you. I will watch on replay. No worries. That's why I wanted to keep it short and sweet. Braden, thanks for the update. Thanks for sharing. You are very welcome. We aren't mentioning any weenie runs during turkey time. No, absolutely not, because the GFS is probably still going to be cranking out hurricanes for the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico at random at the tail end of a front, and we're not going to talk about that. We've already had a very impactful hurricane season, and at the very tail end of the season, if not on the 31st or into December, I want to do a very long discussion. Invite Jonathan. I may even ask if the whole Pinpoint team wants to do some kind of a big video conference so we can just hot wash the hurricane season, talk about failures, mistakes, successes, etc., and just kind of pool together thoughts, opinions, and data to just get that much better for the next hurricane season. Mr. Man JJ, I've missed you guys for sure. For sure. God bless you and have a wonderful night. Thank you, Nomad Avenue 6. I really do sincerely appreciate it. Daddy Devil, love right back at you to Jamaica. And we'll see you guys again soon. And remember, for those of you still watching, if I am not here on the Weather Center, you can always find me somewhere else. I am 110% invested in the weather community, and I am 150,000% invested in my weather career. So you will always find a way to get in touch with Weather Center Nazario, David Nazario, somewhere out there in the weather sphere, as I like to call it. Clip King, can't really tell you when the next live stream is. I just really don't know it. A lot of it very much heavily depends on what my day-to-day looks like, how much the traffic hinders me from getting home, what my hours look like if I'm doing a show. Tomorrow I'll be on the noon show at News 6. So if you want to tune in or watch on the app, I'll be on TV for the 12 o'clock, the lunch hour, and doing the thing from there. And then we'll probably have a live stream somewhere on either end of that, and we'll figure it out. But thank you all once again for watching. You are always such an excellent audience. If you do have any questions, comments, or concerns, drop them in the comment section down below upon the conclusion of this live stream. I will get back to you at my earliest chance because everything just tends to be very busy. Tomorrow, as a matter of fact, I got to get up at 3:30 because I want to make sure I have time to get dressed, get out the door, get a workout in, and then suit up for the day, and then finally settle in and hopefully be back by a reasonable hour. So we'll see you again very soon. Nazario, my channel has gone viral over the weekend, not a promotion. That's excellent news. I'm very happy for you. I hope that it continues to do so and continues to blossom. And we'll talk again very soon, guys. But you know the drill, and we're never going to stop saying this. This is Weather Center Nazario.